Hey everyone, it's Kaycie, and today's video is for my beginners who are wanting to learn more about the yin yoga practice. Maybe you're looking to start your own practice, maybe you're just looking for more information or just to know what it is. So in this video, I'll kind of break down what is yin yoga, the basic expectations, what you may need for a class, and the overall structure and time of a class. This is in a completely different realm than vinyasa or hatha or the movement-based practices. This is starting to move us down into the more calm, relaxing, or meditative styles of yoga. So you can kind of think about yin yoga as being deep stretching into the body, but it goes a little bit deeper than this, no pun intended. So rather than in a normal, vinyasa or flow-based class, you're focused on creating some more muscular strength into the body. So we're moving through postures that do incorporate strength building, do incorporate that engagement of our muscles. And when we start to work into yin, we're looking to disengage our muscles. So postures will be done typically on the ground, whether from a seated position, on your back, from your belly. I have seen postures done from tabletop or even from a standing, like a forward fold. I've seen the use of walls. Walls can be great offerings in a yin yoga class, but mostly you're going to be on the ground. So not a whole lot of getting up, getting back down. Okay, so a lot more accessible in those types of movements. But when we're focused on the muscles and supporting and holding ourselves in positions such as standing up, getting down, or activating in intense postures, right? Yin is going to take it into the complete other direction. And as we focus on the disengagement of the muscles for longer periods of time, because we will hold poses much longer than you would see in a movement-based practice, okay? But after that passive release, let's say about 3 to 5 minutes, you start to release more into the connective tissues in the body. And think about the connective tissues or the fascia as being the body's interwebbing, okay? So all these little webs that start to connect all the pieces together, right? Muscles and bones and all that fibrous tissue in between. So when we're doing this, we do create a deeper sense of release and opening. And I'll kind of give you the best example. I love to use this example. Think about when you're laying in bed or on the couch and you're watching TV and you bring the feet together, the knees are open wide. If you ever catch yourself in this type of position, when we're doing something, we're not paying attention, time and time goes by, and then after, let's say, 5-10 minutes even, we want to get out of that position and we go to move. It almost feels like we're kind of stuck in that position. We might even need to use our hands to help get us out of that position. And the reason being is because we've disengaged our muscles from such a deep, intense, stretched position for a lengthy period of time, right? Just passive release into a stretch. Then we've gone beyond where the muscles can engage and support that shape. We've released deeper into the fascia, deeper into the webbing of your body, which requires that little extra assistance and help. And we'll definitely go over that assistance as we move through the practice, because that is an important part, making sure that we're not falling into this really deep release and then engaging within that release to lift ourselves out of it. Everything's going to be slow, supported, controlled. But if you think about this deep stretch that you're releasing into, once again, you're not in an engaged stretch, you're in a passive stretch. We have to disengage those muscles and for a certain set period of time. So if you're in a flow class, in the beginning portion, you may only be in a stretch for maybe 3 to 5 breaths. Okay, yin takes it to 3 to 5 minutes of releasing into these things. So as we release into our bodies, it is very difficult to disengage our muscles, which is exactly what we want to do. So that is why props can be so important in a yin or more of the yin components or practices such as restorative, and even in meditation, props can be super, super helpful. But with yin specifically, props are so helpful because what we want is to bring ourselves into a stretch within our bodies. But in order for us to be able to disengage fully, to release into that stretch in a more passive manner, we need support, okay? So if our body is just hanging in space, over time, we're gonna start to feel that tension building, okay? And we want a little bit of tension because you do wanna feel yourself sink into a stretch. We're not pulling ourselves out of the stretch, we're supporting ourselves within the stretch. And by doing that, as we start to relax, we feel the support and our body feels the ability to just let go and surrender into the support that we've created for ourselves. So we'll learn how to use our props. Now, we might not get to every single prop today. It just depends. We'll see how much time I have to squeeze this little mini practice in for you guys. But I do want to explain real quickly the props that you might want to have for a yin class specifically. So first and foremost, I have 2 blocks, and I think these are probably the most important of the props to have. Just because they're very well rounded. They can be used in whether a yin, restorative meditation, or the yang-based practices where you're moving, okay? Blocks are super handy and they're not very expensive. 2 blocks. Foam blocks are great for a yin or more of the relaxing styles because they're soft, they're cushiony, and they provide the support that you're looking for. I have cork blocks, which are a little bit more firm, but I like the firmness and they're still soft enough to relax over, okay? So 2 blocks would be recommended, and we will use some of these props today. So if you don't have blocks at home, you don't want to make the investment, go ahead and see if you can find some thick books, perhaps some hardcover books that you can use in replacement of, and if you need to lay a towel or something for some cushion, those are just ways to kind of replicate the same thing. Now I have here a belt. You can use a yoga strap, preferably one with a little attachment so that you can adjust the loop size of your straps to create more of a lock and binds. These get used very often to help us release or to help us find more length into our bodies. So a strap is always nice to have. I have 1 yoga blanket here. Now you can use as many blankets, it doesn't have to be a yoga blanket. Use whatever you have, but preferably something that can fold up and roll so that you can adjust kind of the thickness of it without it being too big. Sometimes when we have this giant blanket, it just gets in the way. Okay, so something that can be foldable, that can lay flat or fold in to create more and more layers to stack. Blankets are going to be used more for not only warmth or cushion and comfort, but to fill gaps of space, okay? So blocks do the same thing in this practice. They help to lift the floor to us, to fill the space between our bodies and the ground, so that as we release into these stretches and gravity kind of pulls us down, we're releasing down into the prop. So we're basically building a little fortress underneath the gaps of space in our bodies, especially the areas they're going to feel the most tension from holding, okay? A little bit of tension in the body is exactly what we're looking for in the yin practice, and to feel ourselves kind of release and test those edges, not going beyond the edges. And I'll touch on that too as far as the breath and being able to connect with our body's edges. But blankets are nice because let's say that you only have a little space that you need to fill between your body and the ground to offer that support. A block might be too much, a bolster might be too much, but a blanket can be adjusted in ways that can provide a little extra cushion or a lot of extra cushion. So I just have 1 blanket, have as many as you like. I think 2 blankets is probably the preferred amount for a yin class, and restorative, you'll add even more props, but these are always a good starting point. And then lastly, I have my bolster. This is a pretty thick, round bolster. You might like your bolsters a little bit more flat. It's all your preference, whatever you like, but I like this because it does offer a lot of support and lift. And then I only have to adjust a little bit from there, okay? But those are the props that are really, really helpful for being able to find that passive release and support in our postures to get the most benefit as we release into the connective tissues inside of the body. So let's talk about what the objective is overall. So when we know that we're trying to hold these poses for quite some time so that we can release into the fascia, we know that we're going to use the props to help us do that. Okay, now what's really important is that we learn where is that threshold or that edge where our body feels tension and discomfort, but we're not teetering over that line into the realm of pain or straining the body, okay? So the breath is gonna be kind of that gray area. It's gonna be the indicator that helps you to separate those two. Okay, and especially in the beginning when we're going into really deep stretches, this isn't about just like forcing yourself into your max, holding your breath. Quite the opposite, okay? When we do that, we create tension in the body. We're holding our breath. We're not bringing oxygen into the muscles. We're not helping to relax the body. And instead, when we're holding the breath, we're kind of feeling more active through that fight or flight mode. We start to feel a little more hyperventilation and that quick moving breath. We want to slow things down to be able to ease and melt into our bodies. So using the breath, and in this practice, we use a different breath than what we use in a more movement-based practice. So movement, we focus on kind of breathing up into the chest, but we're still kind of expanding the diaphragm up and keeping that fullness in the breath. And we usually activate in that practice an Ujjayi breath. Now you can still do that if you really like that breathing technique. And if so, you can go check those videos and, learn more about what Ujjayi breath is. Otherwise, we will focus more on belly breathing, okay? Diaphragmatic breath. So breathing into the diaphragm and feeling its expansion through the belly, through the lower sides, and through that lower back, okay? It's okay if the breath still travels through the chest. We're gonna start to kind of feel all the sections of the torso opening together to find space. But we wanna really try to relax in through the belly. And this is going to help us with that rest or digest mode. It kind of calms our central nervous system. We start to feel a little more relaxed in what we're doing, even when we feel a lot of tension in that stretch, okay? So even though we're not moving a whole lot in a yin practice, we can still sweat, okay? Because these stretches are deep. As we're releasing, it does feel like a lot in the body. So it's not just super relaxing, and you might feel some relaxation from it, but you're still going to feel that level of tension, which is what we're trying to consistently seek as we're moving through the pose. So as you're breathing into the postures, if you feel that sharpness, you're holding the breath and retaining, I want you to provide more support to come out of the position, supporting yourself higher out of it until you can find that nice full breath, okay? And then you'll know that you're in that nice realm of, you're a little bit safer in that realm when the breath is smooth and flowing, okay? So holding breath, bad. Smooth breath, good, okay? So this changes because we're going to be holding these poses anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes each, okay? And so as we melt through that first initial layer of tension and resistance in the body's first going to kind of go, I'm feeling really tight. And then you focus on the breath, you focus on that support and that relaxation, and then you slowly start to soften past that first layer. And you'll feel yourself kind of work through those layers where you'll almost kind of feel this sense of disengagement. And then we start to move in a little bit deeper. This is all about that mindfulness and that connection to our bodies and recognizing through our breath when we have dropped deeper into that next layer. Okay, and if it still feels super tight in that next layer, you'll stay there. But ultimately what we're looking for is as we kind of seep through the tension and drop into more depth and a little bit more ease, then we bring ourselves more into an edge. So we're consistently looking for that next edge to move us deeper and deeper into the posture and to release deeper into the connective tissues within the body. So I will indicate the breath, and to continuously find your edges, second edges, adjusting. I like to incorporate a little bit of dynamic movement first before I drop completely into a static release. And I feel it helps my body to kind of work through the initial tension, kind of those little pops and cracks that you would feel, maybe even like when you're first waking up and you take that big stretch, and then allowing yourself to release fully and completely with as much stillness as possible. Now, because we're holding poses, it does embrace more of a meditative style of the yoga practice. So if being still, quiet, calm, and not moving much from one thing to the next is difficult for you, then this practice is probably a perfect challenge to be able to kind of work through all of that clutter in the mind, which we all experience, okay? So maybe this practice is more physical, maybe this practice is more mental. Everyone's gonna experience it a little bit differently. And I think that that's pretty cool because everyone's gonna have kind of their niche pockets. But with yin yoga, I wouldn't recommend doing it more than 2 or 3 times tops a week because we don't want to put too much strain continuously on our joints in the bodies. We want to give them time to repair, to strengthen, and to bring more support into the joints. So I like to balance out a yin practice with more of a movement-based practice, and that way I can still incorporate some strength building, especially mobility, as you start to open deeper into your body. We want to start to bring some musculature in there as well to help support the joints and be able to have better, more accessible movement over time. So yin, release, only needed a few times. If you're just deep stretching, that's different. If you're doing this passive release, holding in actual yin positions for lengthy periods of time with your support, okay, you're gonna feel it, okay? You may even feel sore afterwards. So just the layout of a class. I've already kind of described that mostly everything is done from the ground, which is really, really nice because it makes it so accessible to pretty much everybody. And a lot of these things you can even do while you're laying on the couch, laying in your bed, so long as you have the props and your bed's not too squishy, because we do want to still feel those edges and be able to kind of release into those. Okay, so the general flow of a class usually starts off in a more grounding, restful position, like most classes will, where you can establish that breath work. And once again, belly breath down into the diaphragm. After being there for just a little while, establishing that connection and that presence, then we start to come up into whatever position is on the agenda that day. So the teacher will guide you through the setup process with the props. And there's gonna be different levels, right? Because depending on your flexibility level, we all need to find where our bodies stop in a position and being able to fill the space between our bodies and the ground. So if someone's more flexible, they might need less props. If someone feels a little bit more stiff in their bodies, they're gonna need more props or more adjustments. So being able to have those offerings throughout can be extremely helpful. And I try my best to offer as many variations as possible to accommodate many different body types. But if I ever miss anything, just let me know and I'm happy to help you out. But as we start to move through these things, we'll find the right positioning for us. So we'll start to set up all of our props, and this does take time sometimes. So don't feel like you need to rush the process. If it takes you a little bit longer to find your right variations, take that time, because guess what? Next time it'll be so much easier to just come back, drop into the practice knowing exactly how you want to set it up. And then over time, you'll start to notice the increase in your flexibility as you start to remove props out of your way and feel yourself dropping deeper towards the ground. So it's just kind of a melting with gravity. So plenty of variations will be offered, and there's usually kind of a dynamic sequence where you take a forward fold, back bends, you do twists, you do things that are complementing one another, but without putting too much strain in one specific area. So you're not going to just do forward fold after forward fold after forward fold, and if you are, try to steer away and add a little more variation into your practice by letting the spine find different movements, let the pelvis find different movements and complementary movements as well. So hopefully after a yin class, your body should feel a lot more open, and depending on what the focus of opening is in the body, you might be upper body focus, lower body, full body, whatever it may be, but there's usually a nice contrast to bring more balance into the body's release. Okay, so after you get into a position, that's when you'll have the guidance. You'll be kind of guided through that release, through the breath work, and after holding about 3 to 5 minutes, okay, then the teacher will guide you back out. There may be quiet time, and that quiet time is for you to just sit in your still. Okay, this is where the mind gets chatty, and this is where you can embrace that meditation and just kind of moving yourself through with your breath. After we come out slowly and maybe offering as much assistance as our body needs to lift out of positions. We remove the props, and then we usually do some counter stretching in between just to kind of loosen everything up. We're not going to rush from one pose to the next, okay? It takes time to set up, it takes time to break down, it takes time to release after every pose, so things move more slowly. Allow yourself to move more slowly. We will do less postures because of this, but we're going to really experience the benefits of these postures because we're not rushing them. Now, depending on the length of time that you have in a class, you might have 5 postures, you might have 10 postures, however much length you have. And then at the end, it's usually same thing, a supported shavasana or some kind of releasing posture, and then closing out the practice together. So it's very broken up. Okay, there's not a flow or a continuation of breath and movement. It is just a slow release, coming out, resetting, and starting again. Okay, so we're gonna jump in and just kind of maybe cover a couple different postures together, a couple of my favorite postures together, and we'll only use a few props. We probably won't use all of them, but let's just find a comfortable seat for now as we ground in and start to establish more of that breath connection in our bodies. So close your eyes from any seated position, lift your spine nice and tall, relax the shoulders. Exhale your breath all the way out. And take a slow breath in through the nose. Really open up your low belly and your low back. Keep the breath low in your belly. Hold at the top of your breath. And then exhale, slowly melt the breath back out through the nose, cinching the navel towards the spine, lower back cinches in. Okay, we're gonna do that again. We're gonna add on. Inhale, expand through the low belly and low back. Let it rise to your lower ribs, mid-back. And hold it here. Keep the breath low. And then through the nose, exhale, cinching in through your ribs. And all the way down into your belly and your lower back, drawing in towards the midline. Last one, inhale, breathe into the belly, the ribs, and then let the breath come all the way up into your chest and shoulders, holding here. Through the nose, exhale through your chest, through your ribs, and through your belly. Take one more on your own and really establish the pace of breath that feels best for you right now. Let that belly open. All right, gently blink open through your eyes. So we're gonna come into a nice heart opening stretch from our backs. But we'll start from a seated position, and you have a couple options. You can either use blocks, or you can use your bolster, or you can use both. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly just explain here. As you set up for fish pose or supported fish pose, one block will be for your head, one block will be for the back of your heart space, okay? So back of the heart, below your shoulder blades, kind of that bra strap line. It'll help to kind of puff your chest open. You can either have your blocks flat, okay? You can have your blocks create a ramp, which is going to give a little more support to your head, takes you out of the heart opener a little bit. Or if you want more heart opening, make the head lower than the heart. And you can adjust your blocks as much as you'd like, okay? So that's one option, is just using blocks, and then you release down onto those blocks however you have set it up, okay? Now, other option is to use a bolster. And you can either use your bolster by just stacking it like that ramp, okay? And as you stack it like the ramp, you can adjust the blocks to make sure they're nice, firm, and support. Last thing we want is to set up blocks where they're kind of crooked and then we topple over in the positions. So you can take your bolster over like a ramp, okay? That feels nice. Or if you want, you can also release the blocks altogether and just use the bolster. Couple options. You can lie it back, hips right up against the bolster, and then recline back, letting your body spill over. This one feels really nice, and it's running in the same line as your spine, but the hips are down on the ground. Okay, this feels really good. If your heart is feeling pretty open right off the bat, you can also take your bolster, and you're gonna bring it perpendicular to your spine, so side to side. And then as you come back, you're gonna make sure it, once again, kind of goes right underneath the shoulder blades, the hips stay down on the ground, and the head spills all the way back. If it's not comfortable for the head to spill all the way back, you can take a blanket or a block underneath the head just to provide a little extra support and lift. Otherwise, you just surrender in. So go ahead and set yourself up appropriately, whether you're using blocks, bolster, your blanket, or all of the above. Okay, if you want, you can just throw the blanket over you as well, just to provide extra comfort and warmth. Yin is all about getting cozy, so you don't feel like you have to wear like specific yoga clothes. If you would just want to wear your comfy cozies, wear your comfy cozies, wear your socks, get comfortable in the position so you can release fully and completely. Now your legs can do whatever you want. Right now I have my legs crossed. You can also bend your knees, feet on the ground flat. You can extend your legs all the way out like Shavasana. Maybe you draw the soles of the feet together, knees open wide like a butterfly. Okay, there's also a nice deep variation where the knees would be bent into a saddled position like so, okay, and both legs would be here as you drop back. Now that can be super intense for many people on the hips or on the knees. So I like to warm up into that position, but it is a commonly seen position in Yin, especially with this heart opening shape, the supported fish. So close your eyes, and we're gonna take one releasing breath together before we just let ourselves be here for just a few. So exhale, let everything out. Take a slow breath in through the belly, through the ribs, through the chest, holding it. Open your mouth and exhale, let it all the way out. Now let your breath move back through your nose. I want you to feel the breath expanding through the diaphragm, so allowing the belly to open. And because your back is more supported here, you may feel as though it's not expanding as much. You're going to feel more opening through the front side or through the side body. But try to keep the breath moving all the way down into the belly, section by section, and allowing yourself to just kind of melt into this edge. If you don't feel enough of a stretch or an opening, I want you to readjust. Make it more intense or make it less intense for your body until you're met with a bit of an edge. And once you feel that edge, just focus on pulling back one layer at a time to feel a little more connected, a little more still, relaxed. And if your mind becomes busy, which is very normal for when we're trying to relax our bodies, The bodies make up so much of our senses that we're consistently entertained by what's going on through our senses. It's pulling our mind's focus continuously. So when we close the eyes and start to kind of shut out that sensory information, and we start to find more stillness and relaxation through the body, then the mind starts to become more active. And this is completely normal, but if it starts to feel too busy, I want you to just focus on your breath. That's it. Just redirect your attention to taking nice, full, expansive, releasing breaths in and out of the nose, through the belly, the ribs, and the chest, and all the way back out again. And there's no rush, just simply allowing yourself to enjoy probably about 5 more breaths here. Once again, we may end up holding this posture in a normal class anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes. And you can continuously keep going deeper and deeper into these postures to feel more and more of an edge. Okay, now from wherever you are in this position, just little movements in your fingers and in your toes. If you're really low to the ground, it might feel better just to kind of bend the knees in and roll off to either side in a fetal position. Okay, otherwise we're gonna move really slow. Chin slowly draws to the chest as you press your elbows into the ground and walk the elbows back. Now, once your elbows are back, you can slowly use your hands, pressing into the bolster or into the ground, coming all the way up, walking your feet forward, and from whatever position you're in, coming into a seat and just rounding over the legs. Let your entire body spill over and round into a full curl. Give yourself another breath here. Okay, slowly rolling all the way up. We're just gonna take one more posture, okay? And we're gonna do a counter to what we just did. So right now, we were opening up the back bend, and now we're gonna kind of release forward. We're gonna get into those hamstrings. Now this one can be tight, okay? If you have a really tight hamstrings and you get this nice curl of the lower back, I want you to prop your hips up, okay? Prop your hips up on blankets. And what you do is as you sit on it, rather than just sitting on top where you're in the same position, you're gonna keep scooting forward and imagine that point when you feel like you're gonna kind of fall forward off of it, okay? That's gonna tip your pelvis. It's okay to bend your knees as well, okay? But propping the hips up and then helping to tip the pelvis is really, really helpful. Or if you have a wedge, a yoga wedge, those are great too. Otherwise, legs go out nice and long and wide. Once again, it's okay to have a bend into the knees, totally fine. If it's too much, you can also support underneath the knees if you feel any tension there. Now, depending on your level of flexibility, you might release all the way down. Maybe you just need a little bit of support with blocks, okay? This is where you can kind of get crafty and start to build your props for your body. So maybe blocks underneath you, maybe putting a blanket, okay? Or you can take a bolster in front of you. If you need more, what we're gonna start to do is we're gonna start to stack. I'm gonna create a little bit of a ramp here. Once again, make sure it's stable and solid. It's gonna come all the way to the inside, and then I'm gonna use my blanket, and I'm gonna roll it up so that as I come forward, I can release all the way down onto it. Okay, so notice there, I was fully released. There was no part of my body that had to hang on for support. I was fully released down, okay? That's exactly what we're looking for. So go ahead and set up your props here. And as you do, I want you to focus on disengaging your legs. So that might mean they fall out of the shape a little bit. That's okay. We're releasing into the connective tissues. We're not trying to get into that muscular alignment, okay? We're just melting into the position. We're not going to be here for quite as long. I just want you to get a feel for how to set up the position, how we release into it. We'll take a few breaths and then we'll come out. Remembering, once again, normally you'd be here from 3 to 5 minutes. So slowly release yourself over. Get comfortable. And then as you do, fully relax your body. Take a slow breath in, holding at the top, and then open your mouth and exhale, let yourself go. I want you to slowly start to work into your edge. So your edge, find what's appropriate for you to where you can kind of feel that point of tension into the hips, but you're still able to breathe nice and smooth, and just focus on the releasing of that pent-up tension that you feel in the joints. 2 more deep breaths. Right, now from here, the fingers are going to press into the ground. And as I press through the fingers on either side, I'm going to let my chin drop to my chest as I lift my spine and roll it all the way up. Okay, I'm going to set my props out of the way. And then as I do, hands help by lifting the knees, walking the feet in, dropping back onto the hands, and just little windshield wipers here. Okay, this is where we would normally go through a little Shavasana. For the sake of time, if you want to take a Shavasana at home, you can lie on your back. And as you do, a bolster underneath the backs of the knees, going sideways, can be nice, or taking blocks underneath the knees can be nice, or just resting a blanket over the top of you, or rolling the blanket just slightly underneath the back of your neck. All of those are great options, and if you'd like a Shavasana, go ahead and take it. But if you'd like to take an actual yin class, now's your time to kind of go check out those different offerings and try it out for yourself. See how it feels and release into your bodies. So let's just join the hands together at heart center. Close your eyes, lift your spine. Take a deep breath in, and then just open your mouth and let it out. Thank you so much for allowing me to guide you today. Namaste. All right, so fish pose was my absolute favorite position, and it also feels really, really good, okay? It can also be very restorative. The other one tends to be more on the tighter side. For a lot of people, there's a lot of tension in those forward folds, especially when the hamstrings are involved, or the hips in general. So we got a feel for 2 different kind of components. Now, once again, you'd spend a lot more time in these positions, and we'd also get a nice rest at the end. So I hope that you go and check out some more classes to see how it feels, but at least now we have a better understanding of what a yin class is and if it's something that does interest you in your practice. So let me know in the comments how you like this video. If there's any other questions you have, I'm happy to answer them. And don't forget to hit subscribe. I will have more content coming your way soon. Thanks so much, y'all.